I went to your village.
You went to my village?
Yes.
Why did you go there?
Why did you lie to me, Jahtsheenma?
I was afraid.
Afraid of what?
Afraid that you would leave me if you knew the truth.
You told me your mother has passed away.
I'm sorry.
Sorry for what? For lying about your mother or for lying about your money?
Jahtsheenma had spent months pretending to be a wealthy man because he was afraid the woman he loved would reject him for being poor. But he had made one mistake he could not hide. He lied about his own mother. And when Cheenahzah finally traveled to his village, she discovered something that left her completely shocked. But that was not the worst part. What Cheenahzah heard from his mother would change everything. Before we continue, subscribe to African Folktales by Vister and stay with us until the end, because the truth behind Jahtsheenma's lie is something you will not forget. It was a cold evening in Abuja. Jahtsheenma sat in the living room of his friend, Cheeboozorr, looking worried as they talked over a few drinks. Cheeboozorr had noticed that his friend had been unusually quiet since he arrived. "My friend, what is wrong with you? You have been quiet since you came here," Cheeboozorr asked. Jahtsheenma took a deep breath before finally speaking. "It is about a woman," he said. "A woman?" Cheeboozorr asked. "Yes, her name is Cheenahzah." Jahtsheenma told Cheeboozorr about Cheenahzah, a young woman he had met a few months earlier. They had started talking, and with time, they grew close. Somewhere along the way, Jahtsheenma had fallen deeply in love with her. The good thing was that Cheenahzah liked him too. She was not attracted to him because of money or status. She liked his intelligence, his sense of humor, the way he treated people, and the ambition she saw in him. But there was one thing that frightened Jahtsheenma. Cheenahzah came from a wealthy family, while he came from a poor background. He had struggled through school with the help of his mother, Adaku, who still lived in their village. After finishing school, Jahtsheenma moved to Abuja in search of a better life. But things did not become easy immediately. He spent months looking for work before finally getting a job as a clerk in a large and well-known company. It was not the kind of position that paid much, but Jahtsheenma was grateful to have a job. Cheeboozorr also worked in the same company, but he held an administrative position and earned much more than Jahtsheenma. He had a comfortable house and even owned 2 cars. That was why Jahtsheenma was sitting in his friend's living room that evening. Cheeboozorr listened carefully as Jahtsheenma explained his problem. "Then tell her the truth," Cheeboozorr said. "You already said she likes you because of who you are. Why are you trying to make her believe you are someone else?" Jahtsheenma looked down at his drink. "I am afraid she will change when she finds out," he said. "Change how?" Cheeboozorr asked. Jahtsheenma was quiet for a moment before answering. "She comes from a wealthy family, Cheeboozorr. Look at me. I am just a clerk. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. My mother is still struggling in the village. What if she finds out and decides I am not good enough for her?" Cheeboozorr listened before replying. "That is exactly why you should tell her now. If she truly loves you, your background won't matter," he said. Jahtsheenma remained silent. The truth was that he was ashamed of how poor he was. He had spent years watching people treat those with money and influence differently. He had seen how quickly people respected those who had good cars, nice houses, and important positions. Jahtsheenma desperately wanted Cheenahzah to see him as someone who had already made it in life. And that fear had already pushed him into telling his first lie. After a moment, Jahtsheenma finally admitted that he had told Cheenahzah he was doing much better financially than he really was. Cheenahzah only knew that he worked for the large company. She did not know his actual position, so it had been easy for him to make his life appear far more comfortable than it really was. Cheeboozorr stared at him. "That's not good, my friend," he said. "I know," Jahtsheenma replied, "but that's not even the worst part." Then he lowered his voice. "When she asked about my family, I told her my mother has passed." Cheeboozorr's expression changed immediately. "What?" he asked. Jahtsheenma looked away. "She is still alive. She's in the village." For a moment, Cheeboozorr could not believe what he had heard. "Jahtsheenma, why would you say something like that?" he asked. "I panicked," Jahtsheenma replied. "One lie can lead to another. You know that, don't you?" Cheeboozorr asked. Jahtsheenma knew his friend was right. But instead of confessing to Cheenahzah, He kept thinking about what he might lose if she discovered the truth. He had already fallen in love with her, and he was terrified that the moment she discovered how little he actually had, she would stop seeing him the same way. Seeing that his friend was determined to continue pretending, Cheeboozorr sighed. "At least don't make things worse," he said. Jahtsheenma said nothing. After a moment, Cheeboozorr looked toward the keys on the table. "You can use my second car whenever you're with her," he said. Jahtsheenma looked up at his friend, as if trying to confirm what he had just heard. Cheeboozorr continued, "If you need it, you can bring her here to my house. Just don't let this become your normal life." Relief spread across Jahtsheenma's face. "Thank you, Cheeboozorr. I won't forget this," he said. He picked up the car keys and stood up. For the first time that evening, Jahtsheenma felt that he had found a way to keep Cheenahzah from discovering the truth. He told himself that the arrangement would only last for a short time. He would become more confident, tell her the truth, and everything would be fine. But Jahtsheenma did not understand something. The moment he decided to protect his relationship with a lie, he had also started building a life that depended on that lie. And the more Cheenahzah loved him, the harder the truth would become to hide. The following weekend, Jahtsheenma decided to use Cheeboozorr's offer. He borrowed his friend's second car and drove to Cheenahzah's house to pick her up. When Cheenahzah saw him arrive, a smile appeared on her face as she walked toward the car. She had no idea that the car did not belong to him. Jahtsheenma smiled back, trying to behave as if everything was normal. As Cheenahzah got into the car, she looked at him and asked, "Where are we going?" "My place," Jahtsheenma replied. He started the car and drove her to Cheeboozorr's house. As they got closer, Jahtsheenma began to feel nervous. He had never brought Cheenahzah there before. This time, however, he was about to do something he had never done before. He was going to present another man's house as his own. When they arrived, Jahtsheenma parked the car and got out. He opened the door and allowed Cheenahzah to enter first. She walked into the beautiful living room and looked around. "This place is really nice," Cheenahzah said. Jahtsheenma smiled and replied, "I'm glad you like it." He tried to sound relaxed, even though he knew that every word he said was adding another layer to the lie. But something surprised him. Cheenahzah did not spend the evening asking about the house, the car, or the lifestyle she believed he had. She was more interested in him. They sat together and talked about their plans, their jobs, and the things they hoped to achieve in life. As they talked, Jahtsheenma began to relax. Then, at one point, Cheenahzah looked at him and smiled. "You know what I like about you?" she asked. Jahtsheenma smiled back. "What?" he asked. "You always make me feel comfortable. I can talk to you about anything," Cheenahzah said. Her words touched Jahtsheenma, but instead of making him happy, they made him feel guilty. She trusted him, and he was using that trust to hide the truth from her. For a moment, he thought about telling her everything, but he quickly pushed the thought away. He convinced himself that he would confess when the time was right. Later that evening, Cheenahzah asked him about his family. "Tell me about your childhood," she said. "What was your family like before you came to Abuja?" Jahtsheenma became quiet. For a moment, his mind went back to his mother. He remembered the small house in the village. He remembered the sacrifices she had made for him and the years she had struggled to keep him in school. Then he remembered the lie he had told Cheenahzah. "My family was complicated," Jahtsheenma said. Cheenahzah noticed the change in his voice. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," Jahtsheenma replied. But inside, he felt terrible. He looked away. Cheenahzah reached for his hand. "I hope you know you can talk to me about them whenever you're ready," she said. Jahtsheenma squeezed her hand and forced a small smile. "Thank you," he replied. Her kindness made him feel even worse. She had accepted his words without questioning him. After spending a few more hours together, Cheenahzah finally decided to leave. Jahtsheenma watched as she walked away. He felt relieved. She had not discovered anything. But that relief did not last long. He turned and looked around the house. The expensive furniture was not his. The car outside was not his. Even the life he had just shown the woman he loved was not his. Yet instead of walking away from the lie, Jahtsheenma told himself that he only needed Cheeboozorr's help for a little while. One day, he would have enough money to live the life he had pretended to have. Then he would tell Cheenahzah everything. At least, that was what he wanted to believe. As the days passed, Jahtsheenma and Cheenahzah became even closer. The more time they spent together, the more comfortable Cheenahzah became around him. She trusted him, enjoyed his company, and had started to see their relationship as something that could become serious. Jahtsheenma was happy about that. But at the same time, something was beginning to worry him. The closer Cheenahzah became to him, the more she wanted to know about the life he had lived before they met. One evening, they were sitting together after dinner when Cheenahzah began talking about her childhood. She told Jahtsheenma about her parents, her siblings, and some of the places where she had grown up. Jahtsheenma listened with a smile as she talked. After a while, Cheenahzah looked at him and asked, "What about you?" Jahtsheenma looked at her. "What about me?" he asked. "Where did you grow up?" Cheenahzah asked. Jahtsheenma paused. "In the village," he replied. Cheenahzah smiled. "I know that. But where exactly?" Jahtsheenma then gave her the name of his hometown. Cheenahzah repeated the name quietly, trying to remember it. "I would love to visit there someday," she said. The smile on Jahtsheenma's face disappeared for a moment. "You would?" he asked. "Of course," Cheenahzah replied. "If we are going to keep getting closer, I want to know where you came from." Jahtsheenma looked at her. There was nothing strange about what she had asked. In fact, it was a normal thing for someone in a growing relationship to want to know. But to Jahtsheenma, those simple words felt different. If Cheenahzah went to his hometown, she would see the small house where he had grown up. She would meet people who knew his family. And sooner or later, she would discover that his mother was alive. Jahtsheenma quickly forced a smile. "Maybe one day," he said. Cheenahzah looked at him. "I haven't been there in a long time," Jahtsheenma continued. Cheenahzah seemed curious. "You haven't visited your relatives?" Jahtsheenma's heart sank. He knew he had to be careful with every word. "Most of them are no longer there," he replied. It was another lie. Cheenahzah did not know that. She simply smiled and rested her hand on his. "Whenever you're ready, I'd love to go with you," she said. Jahtsheenma smiled back. "I'll take you there." The words came out before he had time to think about them. Cheenahzah looked pleased. "Promise?" she asked. "Promise," Jahtsheenma replied. She smiled and changed the subject. But Jahtsheenma could no longer concentrate on their conversation. His mind was already somewhere else. The village. His mother. The small house he had spent years trying to leave behind. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his biggest problem was no longer the house or the car. Those things could be returned to Cheeboozorr. But how could he hide an entire family? That night, after Cheenahzah had gone home, Jahtsheenma sat alone in his room. He kept thinking about their conversation. He had promised to take Cheenahzah to his hometown. Now he had to find a way to keep that promise without exposing the truth. For the first time, Jahtsheenma understood that his lie had changed. At first, he had only wanted Cheenahzah to believe that he was wealthy. Now he was being forced to control what she knew about his entire past. And every new question she asked was making that harder. Meanwhile, Cheenahzah went to bed that night with a smile on her face, already looking forward to the day Jahtsheenma would take her home. She had no idea that the simple request she had made had left Jahtsheenma more frightened than ever. Because the place she wanted to visit was the one place where his biggest lie could never survive. A few weeks later, Cheenahzah's relationship with Jahtsheenma had become more serious. One evening, while they were together, Cheenahzah told him something that immediately caught his attention. "My family wants to meet you," she said. Jahtsheenma looked at her in surprise. "Your family?" he asked. "Yes," Cheenahzah replied with a smile. "My parents have heard so much about you, and they want to meet the man I've been spending so much time with." Jahtsheenma forced a smile. "I'd be happy to meet them," he said. But inside, he was worried. Meeting Cheenahzah's family meant answering questions about his own life. He knew they would want to know about his job, his family, and where he came from. Those were questions he had been trying to avoid. Still, he did not want Cheenahzah to notice his fear. "When do you want me to meet them?" he asked. "This weekend," Cheenahzah replied. Jahtsheenma paused for a moment before saying, "All right." Cheenahzah smiled happily. She was excited that the man she loved was finally going to meet her family. But Jahtsheenma spent the rest of the evening thinking about what he would say when they asked about his background. The house and car he had been using could make him look successful, but they could not answer questions about his family. And there was one question he feared most. What would he say if Cheenahzah's parents asked about his mother? He had already told Cheenahzah that his mother has passed away. If her family asked about her, he would have to repeat the same lie. Later that night, Jahtsheenma went to see Cheeboozorr. He told him about the meeting, and Cheeboozorr listened carefully. "So, now you're going to meet her family?" Cheeboozorr asked. "Yes," Jahtsheenma replied. "And what are you going to tell them?" Cheeboozorr asked. Jahtsheenma sighed. "The same thing I've told Cheenahzah." Cheeboozorr looked at him seriously. "Jahtsheenma, you are going too far." "I know," Jahtsheenma replied. "You should tell her the truth before you meet her parents," Cheeboozorr said. Jahtsheenma looked away. "I can't do that now." "Why?" Cheeboozorr asked. "Because I don't want to lose her," Jahtsheenma replied. Cheeboozorr became silent for a moment. He knew his friend had already made up his mind. There was little he could say to change it. After a while, Cheeboozorr looked at him and said, "Then at least remember that every lie you tell now will make the truth harder to explain later." Jahtsheenma knew he was right. He took the car keys and prepared to leave. But this time, he understood that pretending to be wealthy would not be enough. He was about to meet the family of the woman he loved. He would have to convince them that everything Cheenahzah believed about him was true, and he was willing to do whatever it took to keep them from discovering the truth. But Jahtsheenma was beginning to understand that avoiding the truth was becoming a bigger part of his life than he had ever imagined. And while he was trying to keep Cheenahzah away from his past, the woman he had been trying so hard to hide from her was still living quietly in the village, completely unaware of the lie her son had told. Back in the village, Adaku knew nothing about the lies her son had been telling in Abuja. She lived a simple life in the small house where she had raised Jahtsheenma. Every morning, she went about her usual chores, cooked her meals, and waited for the phone to ring. Whenever Jahtsheenma called, her face always lit up. She was proud of her son and believed that he was doing well in Abuja. One evening, after speaking with him on the phone, Adaku sat outside her house with a smile on her face. She thought about how difficult life had been when Jahtsheenma was growing up. There were times when she could barely afford enough food for both of them. Even during those difficult years, she always made sure her son stayed in school. She had sold some of the things she owned and worked hard to pay his school fees because she believed education would give him a better future. Now that Jahtsheenma was working in Abuja, she believed all her sacrifices had finally been worth it. She often told the people around her how proud she was of him. "He is a good boy," she would say. "One day, he will make something great of his life." Adaku had no idea that Jahtsheenma was ashamed of the very life she had worked so hard to give him. A few days later, Jahtsheenma called her again. "How are you, Mama?" Jahtsheenma asked. "I'm fine, my son. How is work?" Adaku replied. "Work is good," Jahtsheenma said. "And are you eating well?" she asked. Jahtsheenma smiled. "Yes, Mama," he replied. Adaku continued asking him questions about his life in Abuja. Jahtsheenma answered carefully. He made sure he did not say anything that could reveal the life he had been hiding from Cheenahzah. After they had talked for a while, Adaku asked him when he would visit. "I miss you," she said. Jahtsheenma became quiet for a moment. "I'll come soon, Mama," he replied. "Don't stay away too long," Adaku said. "I won't," Jahtsheenma promised. When the call ended, Adaku smiled and went back inside. She believed he was simply busy trying to build a better life for himself. But in Abuja, Jahtsheenma was beginning to understand that the longer he stayed away from home, the harder it would be to keep his two lives apart. He had promised Cheenahzah that he would take her to his hometown. And now, every time she mentioned it, he had to think of another reason to delay. For the first time, Jahtsheenma began to wonder how long he could continue living this way. He loved Cheenahzah, but he also knew that the truth about his mother was waiting for him back home. And the woman waiting for him had no idea that her own son had told the woman he loved that she had passed. That weekend, Jahtsheenma arrived at Cheenahzah's family home in the car he had borrowed from Cheeboozorr. He had dressed carefully that morning. His clothes were neat, and he made sure everything about his appearance looked good. He wanted to appear confident, even though he knew he was about to meet the people who could ask questions about the life he had been hiding. As he stepped out of the car, Cheenahzah came outside to welcome him. She looked at him and smiled. "You look good," Cheenahzah said. "Thank you," Jahtsheenma replied. She held his hand, and together they walked inside. Cheenahzah's parents welcomed him warmly. Her father reached out and shook his hand before inviting him to sit down. "So you are the young man my daughter has been telling us about," her father said. Jahtsheenma smiled. "Yes, sir. It is a pleasure to meet you." Cheenahzah's mother also welcomed him and soon asked him about his work. Jahtsheenma answered confidently. He spoke about the company where he worked and described his job in a way that made it sound more important than it really was. He did not lie about the company. He simply allowed Cheenahzah's parents to believe that he held a much better position than he actually did. As he spoke, Cheenahzah watched him proudly. She was happy to see the man she loved sitting with her parents and speaking with confidence. For a while, everything went smoothly. Then her father asked about his family. Jahtsheenma paused for only a moment. This was the question he had been afraid of. "My father passed away some time ago, and my mother also passed away," Jahtsheenma said. Cheenahzah lowered her eyes. She already knew that was what Jahtsheenma had told her. Her parents expressed their sympathy and did not ask many more questions. Jahtsheenma felt relieved. He had feared that they might ask something he could not answer. But instead, the conversation soon moved to his plans for the future. Jahtsheenma spoke about his ambitions and his desire to build a successful life. His answers impressed Cheenahzah's parents. By the time the meeting ended, they had formed a good opinion of him. Jahtsheenma stood up to leave, and Cheenahzah walked outside with him. "You did well," Cheenahzah said happily. Jahtsheenma smiled. "I was nervous." Cheenahzah looked at him. "You didn't look nervous." Jahtsheenma laughed softly. "I was trying not to show it." Cheenahzah held his hand. "My parents like you," she said. Those words should have made Jahtsheenma happy. Instead, they made him uneasy. The meeting had gone well, but he knew exactly why. His lies had survived another test. As he drove away in Cheeboozorr's car, Jahtsheenma thought about everything that had happened. He had lied about his wealth. He had lied about his family. And now Cheenahzah's parents believed the same false story. He knew he should stop before things went any further. But instead of telling the truth, he convinced himself that he had already come too far to turn back. Meanwhile, Cheenahzah went back inside, happy that the man she loved had made a good impression on her family. She had no idea that every person who accepted Jahtsheenma's false identity was making the truth harder to face. And one day, when that truth finally came out, it would not only affect Jahtsheenma and Cheenahzah, it would also reach the family that had welcomed him that day. After meeting Cheenahzah's family, Jahtsheenma felt relieved. For the moment, everything seemed to be going well. Cheenahzah was happy with him. Her parents had accepted him, and nobody had questioned the life he had presented to them. But that relief did not last long. As their relationship became more serious, Cheenahzah began asking more questions about his past. One evening, while they were talking, she brought up his family again. "Jahtsheenma, you hardly talk about your mother," Cheenahzah said. Jahtsheenma became quiet. "I told you she passed away," he replied. "I know," Cheenahzah said, "but you never really talk about her." Jahtsheenma looked away. "There isn't much to say." Cheenahzah watched him for a moment. "I understand. I just wish I knew more about your family," she said. Jahtsheenma forced a smile. "Maybe with time." Cheenahzah accepted his answer, but something about it stayed in her mind. She had noticed something. Whenever their conversation turned to his family, Jahtsheenma became uncomfortable. He was happy to talk about his work, his plans, and many other things, but when it came to his family, he always seemed to pull away. Cheenahzah did not want to accuse him of anything. She simply began to wonder why the subject was so difficult for him. A few days later, she asked him another question. "Have you ever taken anyone from Abuja to your hometown?" Cheenahzah asked. Jahtsheenma quickly answered, "No." "Why?" she asked. "I just haven't had a reason to," he replied. Cheenahzah remembered the promise he had made to her. "But you promised me that you would take me there one day." "I remember," Jahtsheenma said. "So when?" Cheenahzah asked. Jahtsheenma smiled. "Soon." Cheenahzah laughed softly. "You always say soon." Jahtsheenma laughed with her, hoping she would let the matter go. She did not ask any more questions. But deep down, Cheenahzah was beginning to notice a pattern. Jahtsheenma was open about many things, but whenever she asked about his family or his past, he always found a way to avoid giving her a clear answer. She decided not to confront him yet. Perhaps there was something painful about his past that he was not ready to discuss. She cared about him, and she did not want to force him to talk about something that might hurt him. Meanwhile, Jahtsheenma was becoming more worried. He had managed to convince Cheenahzah and her family that he was wealthy. He had managed to make them believe that his mother has passed away. But now he could feel the questions getting closer to the truth. Every time Cheenahzah asked about his family, he had to think carefully about what to say, and he was beginning to fear that one day, soon, would no longer be enough. One day, Cheenahzah might stop accepting his excuses. Neither of them knew it yet, but the truth was already much closer than Jahtsheenma realized. Cheenahzah tried not to think too much about the questions surrounding Jahtsheenma. She loved him, and she did not want to believe that he was hiding something serious from her. But the more she thought about his behavior, the more uncomfortable she became. He had told her that his mother has passed away, yet he hardly ever talked about her. He had promised to take her to his hometown, but whenever she brought it up, he always found a reason to delay. And whenever she asked about his family, he quickly changed the subject. At first, Cheenahzah tried to understand him. She told herself that maybe his past was painful. Maybe he simply needed more time before he could talk about it. But there was one thing she could not ignore. Too many things were not adding up. One afternoon, Cheenahzah decided that she needed to know the truth. She made a few quiet inquiries and eventually found out where Jahtsheenma's family lived. She did not tell him what she had discovered. Instead, she decided to visit the village herself. A few days later, Cheenahzah traveled to Jahtsheenma's hometown. When she arrived, she asked around until someone directed her to the small house where Adako lived. Cheenahzah stood outside the house for a moment before walking to the door. She knocked. After a short while, an elderly woman opened the door. It was Adako. "Good afternoon, Ma," Cheenahzah greeted politely. "Good afternoon, my daughter," Adako replied. Cheenahzah smiled. "Please, are you Adako?" The woman looked at her with surprise. "Yes. Who are you?" Adako asked. Cheenahzah hesitated. "My name is Cheenahzah." Adako's face immediately brightened. "Cheenahzah?" "Yes, Ma," Cheenahzah replied. Adako looked at her carefully for a moment before smiling. "Are you Jahtsheenma's Cheenahzah?" Cheenahzah's heart sank. "Yes, Ma," she answered. Adako happily reached for her hand. "Come inside, my daughter. My son has told me so much about you." Cheenahzah stood there in shock. For a moment, she could not speak. Jahtsheenma had told her that his mother has passed away. Yet here she was, standing in front of the woman he had claimed was no longer alive. Adako noticed the look on her face. "Are you alright?" she asked. Cheenahzah quickly forced a smile. "Yes, Ma, I'm fine." She followed Adako inside. As they sat together, Cheenahzah looked around the small house. Everything was simple. The place was nothing like the wealthy life Jahtsheenma had presented to her in Abuja. There was no expensive house. There was no sign of the comfortable life he had made her believe he lived. Adako, however, seemed completely happy to have her there. She continued talking about her son. She told Cheenahzah how hard Jahtsheenma had worked to finish school and how proud she was of the man he had become. Cheenahzah listened quietly. Every word made the truth harder to accept. The man she loved had not only lied about his wealth, he had also lied about his own mother. Adako smiled at her. "I am so happy you finally came," she said. "Jahtsheenma has always wanted to make something of himself." Cheenahzah looked at her. For the first time, she understood something that made the whole situation even more painful. Adako had no idea what her son had told her. She did not know that Jahtsheenma had told Cheenahzah she has passed away. She did not know that he had been hiding the life he came from. And she did not know that Cheenahzah was sitting there trying to understand why her son had done such a thing. Cheenahzah thanked Adako for welcoming her. "Thank you for receiving me, Ma," she said. "You are always welcome here, my daughter," Adako replied. Cheenahzah smiled politely and quietly left the house. As she walked away, her mind was filled with questions. She had come to the village because she wanted to know whether Jahtsheenma had been telling her the truth. Now she knew. But the truth was worse than she had expected. She did not know what hurt more, the fact that Jahtsheenma had lied to her, or the fact that he had been ashamed of the woman who had sacrificed so much for him. She thought about everything Adako had told her. The woman was proud of her son. She had no idea that the son she loved and praised had hidden her from the woman he claimed to love. Cheenahzah continued walking, still trying to understand what she had just discovered. For so long, Jahtsheenma had been asking her to wait. He had said soon. Now she had gone to the place he had been trying to keep her away from, and she had found the truth herself. The only question left was what she would do when she returned to Abuja. When Cheenahzah returned to Abuja, She did not call Jahtsheenma immediately. She needed time to think about everything she had seen and heard. She had gone to the village expecting to find the place Jahtsheenma had been avoiding. Instead, she had found his mother alive. She had also seen the simple home where Adako lived and discovered that the comfortable life Jahtsheenma had shown her in Abuja was not his real life. For a while, Cheenahzah wondered if she should simply walk away. She had every reason to be angry. Jahtsheenma had lied about his money. He had lied about his family. Most painful of all, he had told her that his mother has passed away when she was actually alive. But Cheenahzah still loved him, and before making any decision, she wanted to hear the truth from him. That evening, she asked Jahtsheenma to meet her. When he arrived, he smiled as usual, but the moment he saw her face, the smile disappeared. Something was wrong. "What happened?" Jahtsheenma asked. Cheenahzah looked at him for a few seconds before speaking. "I went to your village." Jahtsheenma became still. His face changed immediately. "You went to my village?" he asked. "Yes," Cheenahzah replied. For a moment, Jahtsheenma could not find the words to answer. He already knew what she had discovered. Cheenahzah looked at him. "Why did you lie to me, Jahtsheenma?" He looked down. Her voice remained calm, but the disappointment in her eyes was clear. "You told me your mother has passed away," she said. Jahtsheenma remained silent. "She welcomed me into her home," Cheenahzah continued. "She told me how proud she was of you. She told me about the sacrifices she made to help you finish school." Jahtsheenma lowered his head. "I'm sorry," he said. Cheenahzah looked at him. "Sorry for what? For lying about your mother or for lying about your money?" Jahtsheenma finally looked at her. "I was afraid," he replied. "Afraid of what?" Cheenahzah asked. "Afraid that you would leave me if you knew the truth." Cheenahzah stared at him. "You thought I would leave you because you were poor?" Jahtsheenma was quiet. Then he answered, "Yes." He explained what had been going through his mind. "I was ashamed of my life. I wanted you to see me as someone who had made it. I thought if you knew how I really lived, you would think I wasn't good enough for you." Cheenahzah's eyes filled with tears. "You should have trusted me enough to let me decide that for myself," she said. Jahtsheenma had nothing to say. Cheenahzah continued, "I didn't fall in love with the house you showed me. I didn't fall in love with the car. I fell in love with you." Jahtsheenma looked away. "But you were so ashamed of your own life that you were willing to pretend your mother has passed away." Those words hurt him deeply. For the first time, Jahtsheenma thought about Adaku sitting in her small home, proudly telling Cheenahzah about him without knowing what he had said. He thought about all the sacrifices she had made for him. She had struggled to feed him. She had worked to keep him in school. She had given up things she owned because she wanted him to have a better future. Yet after all she had done, he had become ashamed of her. Jahtsheenma finally understood how badly he had hurt the woman who had sacrificed so much for him. "I was wrong," he said. "I know that now." Cheenahzah remained quiet. Jahtsheenma continued, "I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I should never have lied about my mother. She did everything for me, and I repaid her by being ashamed of her." His voice became heavy with regret. "I don't expect you to forgive me immediately, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry." Cheenahzah looked at him for a moment. "I need time," she said. Jahtsheenma accepted her answer. "I understand." For the first time since their relationship began, he did not try to convince her of anything. He did not pretend to be rich. He did not make excuses. He simply accepted the consequences of what he had done. Over the following weeks, Jahtsheenma began making things right. He went back to the village and apologized to Adaku. He told her everything. Adaku was hurt when she learned that her own son had been ashamed of her. But with time, she forgave him. She reminded him of something he should never have forgotten. "You should never be ashamed of the woman who stood by you when you had nothing," Adaku told him. Jahtsheenma promised her that he would never make the same mistake again. He also stopped using Cheeboozorr's house and car to impress Cheenahzah. From that point on, he lived honestly, even though his life was much simpler than the one he had pretended to have. Cheenahzah eventually saw the change in him. She realized that Jahtsheenma was no longer trying to impress her. He was finally allowing her to know the real man behind all the lies. With time, she forgave him. Their relationship continued, but this time, it was built on honesty instead of appearances. Jahtsheenma also remained close to his mother and became more grateful for everything she had done for him. Eventually, Jahtsheenma and Cheenahzah got married. Their marriage was not built on wealth, expensive houses, or borrowed cars. It was built on the truth. Jahtsheenma had once believed that looking rich would make people respect him. Instead, his desire to look wealthy nearly cost him the woman he loved. It also made him ashamed of the mother who had sacrificed everything for him. In the end, he learned a lesson he would never forget. There is nothing shameful about coming from poverty. What is shameful is forgetting the people who stood beside you when you had nothing. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to African Folktales by Vister, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this lesson. And tell us in the comments, if you were Cheenahzah, would you forgive Jahtsheenma?